A new report confirms Australian rental homes are colder than what the World Health Organisation considers to be safe. The survey by advocacy group Better Renting shows properties have dropped below the recommended 18 degrees 3/4 of the time this winter. The group's executive director, Joel Dignam, joins us now from Canberra. Joel, thanks so much for joining News Breakfast.
Good morning.
How bad is this problem across Australia?
So renters across Australia are spending winter in some really substandard homes and spending a lot of time below a healthy temperature. Our concern is firstly the health impacts that this can have, and that's might be people who are just getting sick more often, their immune system suffers, also the mental health impacts of living in a cold home, but then certainly also the impact on people's costs when you're trying to heat a home that's like this. It's very expensive, you're still not getting warm, but it does force people in winter to cut back on other things just to be able to try to heat their home.
Joel, can you explain how you assess this?
Yeah, so we recruited over 70 renters across Australia and we sent them little temperature trackers like this one, which they kept in their homes in their lounge, their bedroom to track the temperatures. So that actually collected about 350,000 data points across the period we analysed. And so you can then, for each home and for each state, look at the temperature profile, look at humidity, and actually compare that to what would be recommended.
18 degrees is considered by the World Health Organisation to be, I guess, the minimum. What did you find was the case across Australia?
So it varies across Australia. When you average it out, people were below that about 75% of the time, or 18 hours a day. But in some of the colder areas, it was a lot worse than that. So Tasmania was below that 90% of the time. New South Wales, about 85% of the time. And in areas like that, we found about half of the renters we were working with, they were below that 100% of the time. And so there's some people who are getting above that for a little bit. Certainly in some warmer parts of Australia, they're doing better. But in some really big population centres too, Victoria, New South Wales, people are spending a lot of time below that, and some unfortunate renters spending almost the entire winter below that threshold.
In some countries, this is regulated. Do you think that that's what's needed here? Because, you know, it's evident that in some rental properties, landlords aren't doing enough to ensure that they're, safe living standards.
Yeah, well, we are seeing rental properties, we just can't heat them to a healthy temperature because the property is so substandard, that they're drafty, they're under-insulated. We think there's a role to make sure that rental properties can be kept at a livable temperature. It's not something the market's driving on its own, and so the government does need to step in and make sure that standard is set.
And so how would you like to see that work? On a state-by-state basis?
Yes, that would happen on a state-by-state basis. We've seen Victoria, for example, begin on this process with a requirement for energy-efficient heaters that will come into effect from next year. We think measures like draft sealing and ceiling insulation are also really important. They sort of form a package that means the heat can stay in winter, and it's going to be cheaper and easier to put the heat into the home. And that will mean that people can have a decent temperature, can use their homes in winter without their health being undermined.
Joel Dignam, thank you so much for joining News Breakfast.
A pleasure. Thank you.